When I was trying to grow before I started doing keto, I used to wake up and have 20 ounces of protein the first meal, 16 the second meal, 14 the third meal, 12 the fourth meal, then back to 20, then back to 16, then back to 14, then back to 12. I got to 200 pounds from 160 natural. And then the first time I did anything, I was dating a nurse and she hooked me up at the doctor's office.
You got the good stuff.
I got the good. I ordered it literally out of the catalog. It was wild.
Oh, man.
From the first day I joined the gym, I was 162 pounds. At my peak weight, I was 323. I literally doubled my flesh.
What's up guys, Dan with Muscle and Strength. Today I'm super excited to be interviewing one of the pro bodybuilders that I always followed and looked up to, Toney Freeman. If you guys don't know of Toney, I'm gonna share a few stats that I looked up just to verify. They could be wrong, you correct me.
I'll let you know.
All right, so Toney is 6'2". He competed between 285 to 295 on stage, waist size 32, known as the X-Man. And Toney became pro at 36, winning the super heavyweight and overall at NPC Nationals in 2002, and retired in 2016 after competing in over 30 pro shows.
It's like 74.
74? So I was way off.
Well, I mean, it's like when you look, maybe all of them undocumented, because you have to count the tours and all that. So depending on where you get it from, but I kept count because the record was 72, set by Milo Sarchev. And so I was like, I'm gonna break that record. So I broke it, Johnny broke it, and of course Dexter broke it, so. I
had no idea it was that many. That's wild. It's crazy, and we'll get into this a little later, but like how different it is now with like how many shows the pros will do. All right, so let's kind of get into just going into the early years. So you became pro at 36, is that correct?
Yep.
So a little older than most guys. What got you into bodybuilding in the first place?
It's always a woman. Really, it was a guy who I was engaged in like 87, and I was in a long distance relationship. And so I was driving back and forth, and I would talk on the phone most of the time. And so one conversation, my ex, she was like, I met this guy named Toney. He's a bodybuilder. He reminds me of you. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And so I drive home that weekend, and I'm sitting in the bedroom, and I see this stack of pictures, 8x10s of this bodybuilder that wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I was like, baby, who the hell is this? She was like, oh, that's my friend Toney. I was like, oh, okay. And then, so now I'm looking at him like, well, how does this person remind you of me? Because he was all ripped and built, and I'm like 165 pounds. And she said, oh, his personality, he's like soft-spoken, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up meeting him. We became workout partners. So, and we did the 93 junior nationals together. So I kind of joined the gym after seeing that picture of him. Like the next day, I went to the gym and joined, and I was peeping in the window. I saw this guy in there training, kind of buffed. So I waited outside because I was all dusty with sheetrock dust. I waited outside. He comes outside, and I stop him, ask him a couple questions. And he basically laughed at me and told me I was too tall and too skinny, jumped in his car and drove off. So I'm not the type of person that you can tell that you can't do something. That kind of like makes it worse for me, because I'm like, I'm going to show you. So the next day I came again, saw him, and he laughed again, but this time he was more receptive. And me and him became workout partners. And he showed me the ropes and showed me what I didn't like about bodybuilding real quick. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I just kind of, back then we had books, we didn't have internet. So I bought all the books and read all the books and then applied what I read. And that's how I got my start.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So when you started training, what did you look like? Were you, I'm assuming you just mentioned you were 6'2" then, so were you pretty lean?
So I was literally 6'2", 162 pounds. You know, when you first join, it was like, I forgot the name of it, some kind of fitness, and they do all your measurements. So I kind of remember that day because they measured my legs and my arms and how much I weighed. And so that's kind of how that stuff stuck out, because I really didn't, you know, I was skinny, but I was a basketball player, so that was very good for basketball. And so yeah, I had like 13-inch arms, like 22-inch legs. It was pretty wild to put 10 inches on my arms and 10 inches on my legs. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I think that honestly, it's something that, like, being tall in a lot of sports, especially basketball, is like, it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing in bodybuilding. It just really can complicate the size factor.
You have to train different, eat different. You know, I've always, you know, especially now that I'm retired, I'm looking for the tall guys, and it's just a different approach. A lot of stuff the same, but there's things you have to do as a tall person that you probably don't have to do as a shorter person.
I remember there was a video of you're doing like dumbbell rows, but you didn't use the bench because you were too tall for it. And in the video you were like, I lean and hold on to my, like, that's an example. Right?
I have to make adjustments, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to your competition history, so you got into training, you started competing, and then you had kind of a pause around, was it 95?
I tore my pec in 95, August 1st, 1995. I was 285 at about 4% body fat. So I was like 9 weeks out from the show, tore my pec, and I was just like, luckily it was a partial tear. None of the doctors wanted to touch it because at the time I was so swole, you couldn't even really tell it was torn. You know what I'm saying? So I skipped the surgery, did the show. I ended up, I think I ended up fifth that year, fourth or fifth. And then the next year I got blackballed. They took me out of the lineup. And so when that happened, I was like, man, I got a torn pec and I'm dealing with this politics. So I just quit lifting, quit going to the gym. I didn't, from 1996 to 2000 is when I finally went back in the gym and started personal training and lifting a little bit. So yeah, I was just like done with it.
I mean, but I understand that too. I mean, I don't think people realize, I mean, I know it's still hard to become a pro, but man, back in the 90s and it was one person and you had to win the overall, right, to get the card.
Yeah.
So now it's, there's multiple classes. So first, second place, and then you have overall, there's just a lot of opportunities. So there was a lot of guys that I personally still see, I could see them crushing it now that just never even got to be pro.
Right, 100%.
So do you feel—
plethora of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like so you were just kind of like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, and like, did it mess with you to like downsize?
It was extremely like emotional. Like, you know, I'm a Virgo. I'm sensitive. I mean, I've grown out of it, but back then, because you poured everything into it, and you know, to experience the politics from the competitor perspective, like in the audience, you're like, you know, what's going on? But from a competitor, it's a little different because I never really trained or competed or, you know, tried to do a show and to worry about politics. I was always focused on being the best I can be and then beating the people that I'm up there with, you know. So, you know, to get the reality of that, and that's why I'm so grateful that a lot of that's gone now because it's just the way it is. And so it's a game, and it took me a lot of years to figure out it was a game. But once you figure out it's a game, you learn how to play it, then it's cool.
Yeah, for sure. So when did the nickname the X-Man come about?
So I tried to call myself the VP X-Man because I was with VPX.
Yeah.
That's right when the X-Men movies first came out, and nobody was listening. So I even told Jack, Jack Owak, who owned VPX. I was like, hey man, let's make a little doll. You know what I'm saying? Like a little G.I. Joe doll. You know what I'm saying? Like back in the day, and you know, blah blah blah. So they wasn't hearing it. And then the movie came out, and then I did the Europa, my first pro show. Everybody went crazy. I came out as the executioner. And then Steve Blackman, you know, muscular development.
I'm sure he loved that.
They did. And then it was like, let's do a shoot. So I did 2 8-hour shoots back to back, you know, Sunday and Monday. And they got 6 months worth of footage, and they did a whole series called the X-Man series, all the body parts, everything that I actually do in the gym. And then it stuck. Everybody started calling me the X-Man after that.
Very cool. Okay, so a big thing with Muscle and Strength fans, channel's really big into lifestyle and nutrition. And you know, obviously like with bodybuilding, I think for me, when I was really following the athletes in the early 2000s, I would love to see the training, but it wasn't always as relatable as the meals they were making. I was like, I can't do the weight that they're doing in the video, but I could probably make that meal. So I would watch that. And I know you know the Battle of Olympia DVD, and they were epic, man. That was some good stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of moving into nutrition, especially with being tall, what were some of the challenges you had putting on size? Because I looked at some of the videos of like old interviews, and I mean, you had to put on a decent amount of muscle.
I literally doubled, you know, so from the first day I joined the gym, I was 162 pounds. At my peak weight, I was 323. That's literally double. I literally doubled my flesh. So
what did you, like, what, it obviously doesn't happen overnight, but like, what are some of the things that you like, were you a hard gainer or?
So it's kind of weird. I think I was a responder basically. Cause you know, as far as, and we probably can talk about this, but as far as like, I got introduced to hormones in like at 25, 26. So I was like 200 pounds. I got to 200 pounds from 160 natural. And then the first time I did anything, I was dating a nurse, and she hooked me up at the doctor's office.
You got the good stuff.
I got the good. I ordered it literally out of the catalog. It was wild.
Oh man!
And I gained like 65 pounds in like 3 months. Dude. I'm talking about TRT doses.
Wow,
it was crazy. And I didn't know how to eat at first. I was drinking metrics, probably about three, 4 metric shakes a day, and probably 2 meals a day. So, you know, that was my bodybuilding thing. I know Bodybuilders Pros, Dexter's one of them, where that's all we did was metrics for a while.
The bag, the little one you tear open?
Old school, it was 2 canisters.
Okay.
One had a red top and one had a black top, and you had to mix a scoop of each one. And man, that was like liquid muscle, powdered muscle, basically. And so that was how it began. Because what I didn't want to do was carrying around the cooler with the tuna fish and the boiled chicken. And I was like, if I got to do that, I'm done. I can't. That's not even going to work for me. My mom, I learned how to cook at 7 years old. So she taught me how to really cook and make food taste good. So I was just like, I can't eat boiled. I tried it, but it just didn't work. So I had to really figure out how to enjoy my diet and then still get the result. So that's when I kind of really started digging into nutrition myself, started researching what's the most nutritious foods. That's when I discovered bison, all the green leafy vegetables. Everybody does rice, potatoes, white fish, chicken, all that type of stuff. So I started going towards more the nutrient-dense foods, and they stuck to me a lot better. But the real secret was high fat content. When I got with Dave Palumbo, he taught me how to do prep in ketosis. So we would do 6 days a week with just 50 grams of fibrous carbs. And then 1 day a week I would have 200 to 400 grams, depending on how much I can get in and depending on how I was looking. And that worked like a charm.
Interesting.
So I was doing about 200 to 250 grams of fat.
So was that was pre-contest?
Yeah.
Okay, so you always did the keto diet.
Well, from 06 on, it's funny because, from the beginning, the last 3 weeks, most people cut all the carbs.
Sure.
We just called it suffering. We didn't know. I didn't know the technical term, and so I did experience ketosis, but not the kind that you really want. The kind where you feel like crap and you can't hardly do anything. When I was with Dave, I was bouncing off the walls. I had so much energy. Not to really train, though. I only had X amount of energy to train, but as far as walking around, I was very alert, very...
yeah. Well, I mean, the cognitive support of the fats. I mean, most guys do that 40-40-20 where they barely have any fat.
Right.
I mean, we do videos with guys that, they're eating 4,000 calories and their fat's at sub 80.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hey, you can look good on that, but do you feel good? Is it cognitive?
So many things are going wrong in the body when you do that. So again, it's bodybuilding. You're going for the look, and I'm not saying it doesn't work, but you got to deal with all the health issues that you caused over the years from doing that.
For sure.
Because that, having those, 300, 400, 500, 600 grams of carbs every day for 5 years, you're going to be, your pancreas is going to be have a black eye, you know what I'm saying?
So you said 50 fibrous carbs for fats, so that'd be like veggies only, basically?
I would do collard greens, kale, cilantro, and parsley. So I would get, you know, bunches of each one, wash them all up, and chop them up and put them in the food processor, and it'd make like confetti. After you dry it off, it makes like confetti. And so I had like a big thing in my refrigerator at all times. And then whenever it was time to eat, I'd grab a handful or 2 or 3, depending on how hungry I was. And then I would put like 3 tablespoons of olive oil on there, along with my balsamic vinegar, and crush it.
Nice. So, and the fats would basically kind of be you would get pumped from fat and salt, basically.
So when you get in ketosis, metabolically flexible, your body takes your body fat and the fat that you consume and breaks it down into triglycerides, fatty acids, ketones, and glycerol. Glycerol is basically the fat version of glycogen. So it's stored in between the muscle fibers, and that's why I was able to look so full, because I was full of glycerol, which attracts water to itself, but not under the skin. It's in like I say, in the muscle fiber. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool when you get in the zone. That's why I was talking earlier about getting in the zone. Once you get there, just stay there.
Sure, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, because you never look, I don't think I've ever seen a video where you look flat.
Yeah, I've over diuretic before, you know what I'm saying? And that's what, but like if you saw me before, I took too much, I was full as a house, like crazy on.
Yeah.
I remember in 07 when I won the Ironman in the Sacramento, I literally had 3 cups of rice, I think, was
Okay.
my carb up. That's it.
So that's like what, like 90?
Like 100 grams.
Barely anything.
And I blew up like a tick. It was crazy.
So like when you would be in the off season, would you revert to a carbohydrate based diet, or you always stayed low carb?
I did the same diet. The
Interesting.
longest I stayed in the zone was 18 months. I
Wow.
did 16 shows in 18 months. And I was 50 grams of carbs, 6 days a week with 200 to 400 once a week, nonstop, like religion. It was crazy.
So you basically just stayed contest ready for over a year.
I got pictures of me at different times where I would go, you know, I don't know if you know about my regimen, how I used to go to Seattle and all that type of stuff. I had Mary Christine, she used to make my trunks, but she also was my prep coach. And another guy she introduced me to, his name was Tony Aponte. And both of them together, it was like, man, it was like magic, because he did the food and she did everything else. And it was just really cool. Like Tony, when he trained me, he changed the weights for me, drive me to the gym, he basically sat me down in his kitchen. He was like, listen, I got this bedroom set up for you. He had basically put aluminum foil on the window so no light can get in. And so he would feed me and say, go back to we called it the incubator. He said, go back to the incubator. So I literally would eat and go sleep for 30 minutes or whatever, however long, then get up and eat again. I was eating 8 to 10 times a day.
Just growing.
Just growing. So I showed up at his house at 284, right? I think it was 8 or 9 days later, I was 310. Like I gained like 20 something pounds from that regimen, like 10 days.
That sounds like
Kuwait,
like what guys do in Kuwait now when they go away for like 3 months in prep, and they blow up.
Similar.
It's
similar, because you're locked in.
You're locked in.
in.
No distractions. I remember Brandon Curry mentioned that, because like he was like, I go there and it's only bodybuilding.
That's it.
Now I've heard other guys that have gone to Kuwait who that's hard for them mentally.
It is.
Because you have nothing but that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they might have made it fun by now, but when we were going, it was just straight bodybuilding. We went to the gym a couple times a day. We always ate at Fridays every night, but it was, you know, when you first get to Kuwait, they pick you up. They meet you at the door of the plane. You know, in America, you can't go to the plane unless you got a ticket.
Right.
So I come out of the plane, and they're all standing there. I'm just like, damn. So they're like, give me your passport. I'm like, okay, I gave them the passport. They took me to this little VIP section, and they went and got my luggage and cleared me through customs and all that. It's pretty crazy. It's high level.
Did you grow more there or in Washington?
Oh, Washington for sure.
Really?
Because I was in Washington for like 8-9 weeks at a time. You know, literally, I watched a little bit of TV, but other than that, it was no outside anything.
Wow.
And it wasn't boring. It was so much work to do. You know what I'm saying? Like we was getting up at, I think she'd wake me up at 5:30, and then I had to put on this, she would paint me with this little concoction we made to make my skin tight, wrap me all up, and then we would walk through the woods 4 miles, and then come back and I'd take all that off and shower, then eat, and then get ready to train. It's like Rocky, like the movie.
So when you said you got up to 323.
Yeah.
So physically, being 6'2", 323, probably still pretty lean.
I got pictures. Dave Palumbo did we were at the Nationals that year, and I had on my jeans with my shirt tucked in, and I had full abs at 323. It literally. So this is what I did. I did the Olympia that year. That year at the Olympia, it was 2009. I was 293, dry.
Yeah.
And then, so instead of me chilling, I stayed on my diet and went back to the, basically 5 days, no carbs, and then refeed. And I started growing, and it was like weird because it kind of scared me a little bit because I had been 312 before, but I had never been 320. And so I blew past 312 and 318, 19, 20. And I was like, I stopped eating for like 2 days. And I was just like, this is insane. So it was one of those things. I think that's when my physique peaked because, that was 2009. I looked pretty good in 10 and 11, 12. 13, I think that was, like probably the best I looked. And then 14 and 15, I just was mentally out of it. And then 16, I was like, I'm done.
How does an athlete know that they've peaked? Because it seems like it's hard for some guys fans are like, you need to retire, which is harsh. Mm-hmm. But like, how does an athlete, like how do you decide that?
It's hard to decide, especially when, that's all you've been doing for the last 25 years. You just have to be mature and just say, I had to I said, I'm gonna retire at 50, right? And so, 46, 47, 48, 49 comes along. And I think I was already done at 47, mentally. Like I didn't, like I knew I wasn't going to ever win the Olympia again. I didn't think I would probably even win a show again. So I started trying to find my way. And then, kind of just got frustrated because little injuries start happening. And then you just figure, look, man, I've done, when I got to 74, 72, 71, 72, I was just like, because I was going to do all 9 shows that year, kind of like a Kobe farewell type of thing. I had locked in for that. And then I injured myself probably about 8 weeks out before the first show. And my leg, I did some soft tissue injury. My leg swelled up and it was just hard. It just kept swelling up. And so I was getting into cryo. Cryo was making it go back down. And so I did everything I could. And then I went to I did Poland, got 4th there. Went to the Arnold, got last place, which I've never gotten last place. I did an interview with Generation Iron. I think that kind of messed me up a little bit.
It's like, yeah.
They titled the interview Pro IFBB Judging is Bullshit. When a lot of people, they want to get clicks and all that type of stuff. So that was kind of a jacked up title because I didn't say that. I just said that we need to fashion ourselves like other sports. And I was talking about how the Sweet 16, they go 16 all the way down to 1. And in bodybuilding, you get first call out. And then 16 is, oh, y'all come on up here. You know what I'm saying? Like the fans, that's not how you really do it. So I started, being a little vocal about, how I would like to see the shows done because I'm looking at it from the world's view and from the athlete's view and from the promoter's view. And so they do a lot of that stuff now. They do, the confirmation round and worst to first. And, even at the Olympia this year, they had the little boxes on stage. I was calling for that 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen, even this year, I've seen guys that don't make top call out and prejudging, guys that play, like you're thinking they're like 10th or 12th, jump in and end up randomly getting top 5. Yeah. I mean, it happened this year twice with the athletes we've filmed with who it's kind of like they just kind of got overlooked.
Yeah.
And I think the problem now, though, it's like no matter how great of a judge you are, if you have like 50, 30, like massive classes, it's just some guys are going to be bound to be overlooked. I mean, the sport's subjective. I get that. But like, there's just sometimes it's like the names we're hyping up certain people, they get the eyes, and then we see these new guys come in.
Like Martin this year.
Yeah, that was huge.
That was huge.
I mean,
I told Martin after I think he got second to Nick or something. I hit him up, and I don't know him, but I'm a fan. And I was like, bro, just keep polishing. They're going to recognize you got it. He got it.
See, I like that as a fan. I love it when someone comes out of, like, I'm not saying nowhere, but the top, he stirs up the top three. And to me, that gives a lot of hope to where the judging is, because it means that everyone has a chance.
If you notice how basically no one was off, you have to understand the mentality when you're trying to do this. And when we were doing it, you know, we knew it was going to be Ronnie J, and then, you know, you could flip Dexter or Gustavo. You know what I'm saying? We knew that already. So, and not saying that people didn't train hard, but I'm saying, like, when you know that, you're not hoping that somebody screws up, but that is your only shot of getting the look, is if somebody else messes up.
It was just, and I think that, like, that era, man, it was locked in with, like you said, Ronnie. I mean, there was a top lineup of guys, and every year for many years. And I'm sure that's exhausting for the athletes, because, I mean, you saw
it's a business first, but, you know, like I said, from the athlete's perspective, it's not a business first. We're competing against, you know, we wanna get beat by the best, because that's what drives you, and you might end up being the best. Samson is a perfect example. I just saw some pictures of him from 2018, and he didn't even look like he could win. You know what I'm saying? Definitely didn't like he could win the national, but I'm saying, like, even a state level show. Not he wasn't that bad, but I'm saying the distance that he's traveled in that shorter period of time is insane.
Well, and I think with him, I mean, going down that rabbit hole, like, I actually remember in COVID year, during 2020, I believe, he went to Korea to compete in some show they had, and he had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and he couldn't train.
Oh, I remember that.
And he didn't even have the show.
Right.
They canceled the show. And I remember that's when I became a fan, because I was like, dude, you put in work.
Yeah.
And, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I just can imagine how devastating, because he was just going for that qualification.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've always been a fan. So, yeah, definitely well earned and super, super excited for him. Kind of going back into the nutrition.
Yep.
Give us an example of, like, what a off-season diet was, starting from, like, just try your best to maybe remember meal 1 through whatever.
Yeah, so meal 1 was usually 6 eggs with an extra 4 egg whites, 6 whole eggs, 4 extra egg whites, sometimes, you know, like a half a cup or something. And then I would do that big pile of greens, or avocado and the greens with extra olive oil on there. That's meal 1. Then the next one would be, you know, 10 to 12 ounces of bison with the huge salad. With 3 more tablespoons of oil on it. Then the next one will be, you know, 10 ounces of chicken breast with the big salad. I mean, it was just change the protein, go with the greens, add the fats.
And it was 10 ounces minimum.
8. I mean, I would still be hungry after 8. So it was usually always 9, 10, 11, 12. When I was trying to grow before I started doing keto, I used to wake up and have 20 ounces of protein the first meal. 16 the second meal, 14 the third meal, 12 the fourth meal, then back to 20, then back to 16, then back to 14, then back to 12.
Looking back, do you think you needed 20 ounces of protein?
No, but I was trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was 25, 26, you know what I'm saying? I had never eaten 7,000 calories, because we didn't do any shakes back then.
Right.
You know, shout out to Amin, but he put me on a 7,800 calorie diet, and was literally all food. And it was all clean food. Wow. There was no jam on your toast. You know, it was none of that stuff. It was just straight protein, veggies, and we did carbs.
So Amin did coach you before?
Amin coached me. Back, and we met at the '94 Arnold Classic.
Okay.
And he coached me for the '95 Nationals. And then as a pro, he coached me for the 2006 Mr. Olympia.
That's a lot of protein, man.
Bro, it was so ridiculous. And after about 4 or 5 days, I was like, man, I can't eat this. I can't do it. I felt like a stuffed sausage. So I had a friend, his name is Ronnie Adams. He lives in D.C. And Ronnie was eating 48 cans of tuna a day, every day.
What the heck?
Every day. That was crazy as heck to me. So I called him one day. I was like, hey, man, how do you actually get all of that down your throat? And he said, I eat all my protein first by itself, then my carbs, then my veggies. I'm like, okay, cool. So I went and tried it, and it actually worked. I was like, cool. So I still eat like that to this day.
Were there any specific preps that you remember just like really having a hard time pushing through with the diet? Like, just imagine, like, they all suck, but I'm sure there's one or two that.
There's times where I would feel the whatever, and usually when you're traveling, so you just be like, I can't get what I need, so bump it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I tried to, I was locked in. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really like to cheat because, number one, this is what my coach used to tell me: eat all this. If you eat all of this, you can have whatever else you want after that. And then, of course, he knew I wasn't going to be able to eat nothing else after that. So it wasn't really hard to stay on the diet. Only when you travel, when you're not in control of your food, that's when it gets kind of hairy.
Yeah, because with those, over 70 pro shows. You've traveled a lot of international flights. How would you
I
just
got a story about that.
Yeah, how would you do it?
So I would literally do the Arnold, right? Do the Arnold, that ends on Saturday, go to the expo on Sunday. I would leave Columbus. I would go fly home, drop off all my stuff. My wife would start preparing because another show is like next week or 2 weeks, I think, to Australia. And then I would fly to Seattle, do my regimen out there, do my colonic and all that, because what I was trying to do is reset my body. Because once you take that diuretic, you're going to rebound unless you can put that water back in some kind of way. And if you drink it, you're definitely going to rebound. So I would go do a colonic, and I would absorb it through, your body would absorb what it needs, and then the rest would come out. And now I'm hydrated again. So then I just go right back to the diet, get on the plane, fly wherever, do the same thing, fly back home and do the same thing. I did that for like 2 years, 2 years straight. But that's the only way that I could control what I was going to look like.
So you would never really spill over from post-diuretic?
No, I wouldn't allow it.
Because of the colonic?
Yeah, I wouldn't allow it.
Wow.
It was, so I don't know if you remember in 2008. So 2008, I woke up that morning, I was probably, I think I was about 262, which was way too light.
Low, yeah, for you.
I was just like, what the hell happened? Because I was like 275 the night before. So I woke up, I was like, man, because I'm very sensitive. I used to do, we talking about diuretics and stuff. I used to take one diazide and then pour it all out and divide it into 3 or 4. And I would do one little tiny bit, so just a tap. And so that helped too. So that and the colonic made it to where I didn't rebound like crazy. And I knew better than to go eat crap. I didn't never go eat pizza and all that type of stuff after the show. I would have a lasagna, 1 square of lasagna and 1 square of tiramisu. And then the rest is diet food.
So you never had the swollen ankles and the...
I got swollen ankles one time the first time I flew to Australia.
Yeah.
Because I didn't put on, any compression, or I had never been on a 14-hour flight or whatever, 12-hour flight before. And I didn't get out of my seat. So once I did that I never forget it too, because I didn't know my ankles were swollen. So me, Dexter, and Melvin, we're there and we're going up an escalator, and I'm in front of them. And I turn around, I see Melvin giggling, laughing at my ankles, you know what I'm saying? Because we about to compete. And they already knew, they'd been there. Dexter would actually get in better condition flying on the long flight. I don't know how he did that. I'm like, bro, you look better getting off the plane than you did it was crazy. So that was the first time and the only time my ankles got swollen. After that, I learned to wear compression. So I used to wear the compression socks with the compression, everything all the way up to here. And then I would get up every hour or 2 and just, walk the plane. That did the trick. So I just gave y'all a little trick of how to do that.
There you go. Yeah. If you want to look good on an international flight. All right. So let's kind of move into training. So what was your training style like
So in the beginning, I did it like everybody else. I was trying to, I wasn't super strong on certain things. I was chin-ups. I could do chins all day. I used to, I read all the books back in the day, like I told you, and Arnold used to do 100 chins before each workout. So I started doing that. That's how I actually got, the wide shoulders. Because when I was skinny, my clavicles even are different. I kind of went from like this as a skinny kid to like that from doing all those chins. I got to the point where I could do three 45s strapped around my waist, 25 reps.
Wow. That's a lot. I mean, that's very strong.
Yeah.
And you would do that before you train back?
Before I trained anything.
Oh, so you did
I did it every day. Every day I went to the gym. Again, you read something, you just go try it.
Wow.
So I didn't do that forever, but that's how I, I was very good at chinning, very good at squatting. So I did squats. I used to do 1 plate to 6 plates back to 1 plate. I would go all the way up, then all the way back down.
The leg training videos are always what I remember with you, leg and back. But you always moved heavy weight, and you had great form.
Yeah. So I met Jay Cutler in '92. I was up in Worcester, Massachusetts. I thought I was getting ready for the Junior Nationals that year. I got stuck up there and didn't do the show. But Jay was working behind the desk, and so it was leg day. So I go in the back. I got my little belt on, and it's just me by myself. And he saw me do the first set, 1 plate. I was doing 20 reps. Back then I did 405 for 20. So I did 20 with 1 plate, 20 with 2 plates, 20 with 3 plates, 20 with 4 plates, 20 with 4 plates, 20 with 4 plates, 20 with 4. He came back on set 8. I was doing 10 sets. He was like, bro, who are you? And that's how me and him met, and we've been cool like that ever since.
Man, that is so much volume.
It is.
But that's kind of what works, right, with bodybuilding.
I'm tall, bro. That's what I'm saying. I had to do it different. I tried the 5 and 6 reps. It didn't do nothing. I listened to these guys talk about hypertrophy, and I'm just like, most of the guys that talk about hypertrophy they're not big. So they're relying on studies and all that type of stuff. And a lot of times studies are cool, but reality is how I focus. And so I was doing, I'm pretty sure you saw my 100 rep torture where I did 100 reps on every single set. That's what worked. And especially I had no carbs in me doing that either.
That's unreal. I mean, that's so much more cardiovascular training as well. Doing 20 reps with 405 is a lot, but doing that many sets of that.
Yeah.
Which, you look at your physique, why do you look the way you look? Why do you have that condition? You never have that watery look of mass. It was always mass, but granite.
Yeah. If I wasn't in shape on stage, either I over-diuretic, so in other words, I didn't look full or it wasn't popping, either over-dehydrated or I just wasn't in shape.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't like crisp. So that's why I kept doing it. Once I really got into it, and when my placings was all weird and I didn't know why, I just said, you know what, I want to just figure it out. And then once I figure it out, then I can have a different perspective. But while I was trying to figure it out, I just kind of said, oh, well, got to do better next time.
So what was your split? So like Monday through Saturday or whatever, could you go through like what you would do?
Again, like I said, I used to do it the way everybody else do it.
Yeah.
But then I switched to chest and shoulders. And then I would do back and traps, quads, hams, glutes. And then the next time I would do glutes, hams, quads, or hams, glutes. You know what I'm saying? I would mix it up, switch that up. But I always did quads, hams, and glutes together. Glutes never really got a lot of attention.
Well, you were doing 1,000 squats.
Exactly. Well, really, nobody was really focused on glutes, and then, I think who kind of really, Rich Gaspari was the first person that showed up with him, but everybody had him. His just looked the craziest, I guess, because I even looked at some old pictures. Even Lee had striated glutes a little bit. I mean, I had him in 93, 94, 95 without even paying attention to him at all. So, but like when Dorian came along, conditioning, size and conditioning was the thing. And so, I think everybody started like trying to be a pioneer and figure out what works. Like I said, when I was training with Aponte, we was doing baby weights, but he would have, the way that we were lifting it, like he's the one that showed me how to get my arms to 22. I didn't get to 23. I got to 22 and 7/8, but
close.
because I was stuck at 21. couldn't get past that. And he was like, you know, he took the 60s out of my hand and gave me some 15s. And was like, now do it. And so, you know, we doing sets of 20 with 15s and 20s. Man, my arms just blew up. I was just like, wow. So I haven't curled heavy since then.
So you just really respond to volume.
I think so.
Yeah, very cool. What muscle group is your favorite to train?
Now, well, back then it was really everything. I had a love-hate relationship. I hated it all and loved it all, you know. I would have to say legs, because that's what, you know, that's the most challenging. And then probably back. I love shoulders. I did crazy high volume on shoulders, like sets of 70 and 80 and 90. And yeah, I mean, again, being tall, you gotta. It's weird. I you know, I don't know how other tall guys train. I watch Samson a little bit. I watch Andrew Jack. I've been watching him a lot more because I had a conversation with Psycho.
Yeah.
And just was, you know, so now I'm just watching what they're doing. And they train a little different than I did. They do more typical old school, you know, but I did super, super high volume.
I think science, like you said, it's great, but I think that a lot of the pros kind of adapted what worked for them and just kind of went with it.
So you notice now there's not a ton of people that, you know what I'm saying, like back in the day, like there was 25 dudes in the magazine that anybody would trade bodies with, you know what I'm saying? And that was that volume training, a lot less science and just a lot more grit. I'm all about the science, but I'm just saying, like, this, when people ask me what's the difference, I would say we did more oven roasting and they do more microwaving. You know what I'm saying? It comes faster because they have all the knowledge and technology and resources and all that. So something like that.